Recording.
Hey, so I jokingly tweeted about this a while ago, but I've come up with a new business model for us. All
All
right,
right.
let me review it, and I haven't gotten y'all's input from it. I think maybe I got a what do they call it in Twitter now? A favorite or a thumbs up or a heart? I think I might have gotten a heart from one of you guys, which it's maybe, but you might be using an old client that hasn't converted over to a heart, so it could just be a star. I don't know,
Oh.
but though this is my new business model. Okay. There's two options. It's just sponsorship driven, right? You can give us $500 an episode, and I or a person of your choosing. I'm just offering myself up. We'll read your ad. Now, there's a disclaimer. If there's some ad that disparages how our companies, obviously we're not an idiot. Sorry, right? Or conversely, if you don't want that, you can also pay us $500, and at your expense, I will review a Costco item of your choosing. Now, inspired by Syracuse interviewing toasters. I'm going to stick with that, like reviewing toasters. But it'll be limited to Costco. I'll spend time with it. I'll have a thorough review, maybe 5 minutes, and so if anyone's interested in that, I just want to throw that out there. But however, gentlemen, we run a bit of a informal co-op here when it comes to our businesses. But what do you think of this plan? Is this going to fly?
I did just get a brand new Costco credit card. They called me up. I had a fraud alert. Somebody was trying to buy $400 or $500 worth of lingerie at Victoria's Secret in Philadelphia with my credit card number. And I was like, no, that's not me.
Now, Matt Ray, I know that a few episodes ago we discussed Christmas buying tips. Valentine's Day is coming up, so maybe that could be you.
Well,
Matt Ray, were you offended? Were you like, how did you know this wasn't me? This is the kind of thing I do.
They called me up, and and I was like, no, I'm not in Philadelphia, and that's a lot of underwear. Maybe it's not. Maybe I should be shopping there more. I don't know, but so they canceled it, and they sent me a new card right when I had been considering canceling the card completely. So now I have a brand new Costco card.
Now, what is a Costco card?
The Costco Amex.
Oh, to be discontinued in March.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And switch over to MasterCard. That's gonna be our next significant planning event. We're gonna have to go over with our listeners. Is what do you do with the big switch over? Right? How are you?
Well,
we talked about this a little bit, but I think we could do some more research.
But now, yeah. So I've already got my replacement credit cards, but they sent me a new one, and I've renewed my Costco for another year. So feels like I should be going there and reviewing stuff, even though I wasn't planning on renewing my membership.
Yeah. So, anyways, I think there's a lot of potential for people who want to get their message or the fact that they support this community out there, right? Like we have, I don't know, whoever listens to us, whatever it is we do here, we've got somewhere between like 1,200 and 1,500 downloads for an episode, and people come up to us all the time who are like, they spend money in IT, they do shit, right? Like, and so you're not throwing your money away. It's a good investment in throwing your money at us, even though we might be away.
So that gets to the crux of the whole issue is like, what do our listeners want? Do they want more conversations about Costco, or do they want more?
Like any great content producer, I figure our listeners want exactly what I want. What is that? Is that called the thinks everyone else is you bias? And what I want is for people to make decisions for me so I can get on with my fucking life.
Right.
So, it's great. I'm sure the listeners want things if they want to tell us. That's wonderful. But I don't want to assign our listeners homework of having to tell us what they want. They can assign it.
Coach, if I could expand on your business model, I'll just offer one other option to people. Because this week I have played around with Twitter polls for the first time ever.
Oh.
So for $500, I think we can also say we will sponsor a Twitter poll. They can send in a question as long as it's, again, within some normal standards that are arbitrary that we will decide. We will put that question out to all the listeners, and we will ask our 1,500 people to answer your poll. So if there's a burning question that you have related to this, people, we will do it. And I also say, like, having done a Twitter poll, fascinating experience. Amazing the kind of feedback you get.
Really?
Not only answer to the questions, but just critiques on your poll questions about you. Everything comes with it. So I think it's actually a fun device. So if
Yes.
you've ever done a Twitter poll, put one out. It's fun.
Look, I think we all know how fucking helpful the internet is.
and how computers don't work on anything because your Twitter poll got stripped from my client. And I was just like, here's some free form text response.
But
well,
everything, what's great about it, a Twitter poll, is it is the internet, because it just like just immediately goes sideways. You're just like criticizing the poll itself, why you're even asking the question, like the form of your question, the form of your. It's just amazing. It's just like immediately you're like, this is the internet. Thank God I asked something.
You'll have to send that to me. We'll put Brandon's Twitter poll in there so that you can experience the onslaught. Well, this brings up something, not that we should spend too much time on it because whatever, but like, what's going on with Twitter over there? That place is crazy, huh? So just to preface this, I asked this question in, I think so, I shouldn't say buddy, but someone that at least Brandon and I don't know about, Matt, like Thompson, he follows Twitter professionally. But you can tell that he's also very interested in Twitter because of, as he has said, a lot of his livelihood is due to and through Twitter, right? So it's like he has, and I feel like we have a very strong vendor dependency on Twitter. So if Twitter goes down, we get hurt, like in a professional sense. So like that's the main reason I'm always interested in Twitter. But like, what, they just like fired all their major executives or something? And hired. Oh, well, I mean, I don't think executives really ever like voluntarily quit, do they? Like, especially if they happens all at once, like one or two people leaving and like you would, I mean, whenever, like last episode, I forget if this was in the bonus links or whatever, like Steve Mills at IBM, like retired. Right. And I think Dr. Danny Saba, who headed up Rational for a while, and then Tivoli and some other stuff, he also retired. And like, that seemed like they had been there a long time with some other people. And that seems like a more natural retiring, maybe after, not getting promotions they wanted and stuff like that over the last 5 or 10 years. But it seems like at a company like Twitter, when you have like, 3 executives who all like basically leave at the same time, that's some sort of like Night of the Long Knives thing going on there. not really like a well orchestrated, just sort of natural.
Maybe they just wanted to go hang out with each other's families.
Sure. Yeah, I can dig that.
Well, I do find, I think it was 4 executives leaves, and I actually do find it kind of fascinating. I mean, it's, the stuff I've just read is as simple as, these guys were the old guard. They were aligned with like Dick Costello and kind of his regime, and now this is just the normal turnover of new CEO Jack Dorsey taking over. But I do think it comes back to like always the thing, like, people always want to talk about the symptoms, never the problem. And like there's a great post somebody put, like, I think 13 or 15 executives have rotated out of the company in the last year and a half. And it's much easier to talk about like people leaving, people not doing their jobs, people not having a vision, than it is to talk about like the real problem of like, hey, no one can figure out how to make Twitter's subscribers grow, and no one's really sure what features or how the product should evolve to make it grow again. And that's a really hard problem. I don't think anybody has I just think that takes a lot of research, trial and error, and it's the same thing with Yahoo. We see this at Yahoo, and it's just like everyone just wants to get. I'm sure all these people that left were smart. I don't think they were dumb at all. I'm sure.
I think to your point, to like back up a little bit from my my clownish bluster. Like there's this category of companies that are basically like one product companies that are really big and important, like Twitter, and like I have no idea how you do that successfully, right? Like that's such a, at that scale, the fact that you're basically a one product company is kind of crazy, right? Like in contrast, like I'm here in San Francisco at the pivotal annual kickoff, and like we have a small set of products relative to an IBM or whatever, but we have a lot of products that are like complicated compared to like Twitter, and like it's almost easier if you have more products in the portfolio to like figure out what to do if you've got like this one thing. and so it is like and to contrast it with Facebook, like it's interesting to look at Facebook. Like I almost don't put Facebook in that category because it is actually one product, but it seems like so much more that people do in product. Like there's so many more services and things you do with it than with Twitter, which is like this really one singular thing.
Yeah, and
And I don't know
Facebook's
if that's the problem or if that causes the problem.
well, and Facebook's expanded into messaging and photos, and they've diversified into other products.
Well, there's
Yeah.
a great write-up, I know by our friend Ben Thompson on Facebook versus Twitter. And I think, it's a great example of product cycles and product development, to just net that, and we'll put that link in the show notes. What it comes down to is he kind of makes the case that it was all about the feed, right? Like, hey, really blogs popularized this RSS feed and the idea of like, reverse chronological input. And then
Mm.
Twitter and Facebook each sort of gravitated to that. But you go back to Twitter, right? Twitter, at the time made really logical decisions that are now haunting it, like 140 characters. You had
Yeah.
to subscribe to certain people, and they've been really kind of limited. And the product, if you will, grew because it sort of had those constraints. Whereas Facebook adopted this timeline much later, and they went to an algorithmic version of it very, very early. They never constrained what you could put in it. You see pictures, you see links, you see long posts, short posts, and ultimately, like I think that's what's really interesting is like that decision really allowed them to grow. And then just the nature of Facebook kind of built on existing networks of people versus Twitter is like you kind of get
Yeah.
there, it's empty. And it's like, and this is what I always think about, I think a lot about this, like a product in its embryonic stage. Like I think a lot of times that's the only place you can really get it right. And then once it gets to a certain level, it is what it is. And I think, you could say Facebook is geniuses or Twitter is stupid, but it's like Facebook made these core things at the beginning that have propelled its growth. Twitter, ultimately, those things have so far proven out to be, real hindrances. And that's why fixing it now, I mean, it's like, like any, using the housing metaphor, it's like adding a room to a house after it's built. Really hard to make it integrated. And that may ultimately be the demise of Twitter. It just probably gets bought by Google, and
Yeah.
it has this other flavor. And it's just like, and I think for anyone building products, like your window in that beginning stage is like you have so many options, and that a lot of your success is driven on that. Later in life, people are just going to like be fired and hired and talk about tactics, but it's really hard to change the fundamental, value proposition of your product.
Yeah, that's a good theory. I like it. Huh. Well, also going on now, I don't pay a lot of attention, and I don't mean that in some. I mean that in a I don't really know what's going on way, not in a I don't care about it way. To like how like earnings season and like investors and stuff like that. But like this is earnings season, right? Like there's a bunch of reports coming out. Like and how are people doing, Brandon? Is it there's some rational things going on? Is it panning out?
Well, I think people are doing all right, but I think the most interesting thing that's happening is like I think Apple hasn't announced yet, but most people think Apple's going to announce maybe the most profitable quarter of all time. But the people that follow Apple stock, I guess the investors and stock analysts are really unhappy with it because they don't feel they're sort of like this idea of peak iPhone. The iPhone is peaking, it's not going to grow at these absurd rates, even though they're going to probably make more money than it's ever been made in any quarter in the history of time. And I think it is sort of this weird thing that happens in the stock market. Like if you're really profitable, people are unhappy with you because they don't think you can keep going with it, and they're worried about your products maybe kind of declining. And then if you're really unprofitable, but your revenue is growing, they're wondering if you can ever really become a profitable company. And so it
Yeah.
feels like everyone is being punished all the time. And then you just have a few stocks that kind of get in this window, like Facebook right now. I think Google's there, Amazon, that everyone loves, but it's just a matter of time till someone turns on them. So I do, sympathize with the executives that run these companies and have to take these investors calls. I mean, especially the people at Apple. It's like, what are you doing? Like,
They're
are you
like,
going to apologize for making the most money of all time? And that,
but
yeah,
you don't
maybe
have
this quarter.
all of the money.
Yeah, I know. It's like, what do you do? And I think in the case of Apple, I think it's pretty well known, even if they don't announce it, that they're gonna go after building the car market, right? I mean, they're
Yeah.
build a car of some kind, and that's
Well, that's the thing, though. I mean, I think that's why the stock market people are like, they don't know what the next big thing is, and they think, well, how are we going to get 50% growth year after year if you're not already in the next big thing? So clearly, they should buy Docker.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like that. That's one industry that it'd be fun to like accidentally find myself in, just so I can understand like how the hell it operates, because it really is like my most sophisticated understanding of all this mess is that, let's see, the price of a share is based on the future value of the company, right? And then so you drive a consensus, very ad hoc amongst everyone who's investing, about what you think the future value is based on past performance, growth, and, as they say, forward-looking things. And then you peg the share at that price, right? And then if there's any fluctuation on your model, right, like if they announce they're going to enter a new industry, that would logically raise up the price because it means their total market grows. And if you think they can deliver, they'll have more money, right? So they'll be more valuable. But then if they do something that indicates to you sometime in the future this company like is going to have less revenue making potential, it would drive down the price of the stock, because then your model would change, right? And like I almost feel like not all of it at all, but some low double digit percentage is like, well, someone fucked up on some models of like, like of punishing the stock price or whatever. And then, I mean, obviously what happens is there's this like, what's the opposite of virtuous cycle? A vicious cycle? There's this vicious
Yeah,
cycle
vicious cycle.
where you lose track of like what caused what. And then you end up in the purely speculatory phase where the way you value a stock is what you think someone would pay for it tomorrow as you're a rat leaving the ship, right?
Yeah.
And then when you get in that state of like valuing like a stock, it's sort of like index fund time, I guess. Like there's no game to be had except basically finding information faster than someone else does, so that you can get the hell out.
Yeah, and so much, and then there's just so much noise applied to, the market of things like, high frequency trading and, global economic things, so then they're like, whoa, there's all this noise happening on the edges, and then there's things like, well, we would have made our numbers except for currencies.
You got your tailwinds or whatever.
Yeah, and it's like, well, we would have made our numbers except, over here in high tech, we would have made our numbers except for oil.
Right, and then to further evidence my unsophistication, I guess there's also dividends. Like,
some do dividends.
how does that fit into anything, right? Like if there was some guarantee of like I buy the share for $5 and I'm gonna make $6 off of it the next 3 years purely in dividends, which maybe that's an absurd statement, but like that would be a rational. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
The Wall Street people have caught up with me. They're trying to shut down this.
They're high frequency trading your bandwidth.
But I do think, just to pick up your point there, Coach A, just the thing that I think is interesting about it, kind of coming back down a couple levels, is that this kind of behavior definitely drives product decisions, whether you're in a VC-backed company or
Yeah.
large publicly traded company. And I think, so go back to the Apple example, like it's very likely that they are building a car and it's a really hard project. It's going to take some time. And, really Wall Street doesn't want them to release it until it's really good. I mean, that's going to be in the best interest of Wall Street and people that drive the car. But ultimately they can't really say that. They're going to be punished in the short term because it's not out there. And I think, this is what I think when we think about investors or we think about products not being what we want them to be, like part of that is investor pressure, right? That like, okay, let's just show some short-term growth. So it is a complicated thing. Like I said, I sympathize with the guys running Twitter and Apple and like, all the different things. It's like very hard to keep everybody happy. And maybe this is in the end why the benevolent, crazy tyrant, CEO works, right? Where he just ignores all of that and is like, we're going to do this. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. And then, it is what it is.
And eventually the private equity firms reap the people who try to ignore the market.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I mean, you're starting to see like companies, well, like Dell, or that got refactored out, and then now they're back, and who knows what kind of well, there's also Citrix, rumors about them being dismantled. Then VMware having layoffs despite having good numbers. It's, I don't know, it's hard to make sense.
So I think this part got cut off, and then we'll end this. So you know about this stuff, Brandon, right? But like, how's this notion of dividends play into all of this? Is that anything, or is that just
Yeah,
some
well,
some
I think,
confounding macro?
yeah, you were just hitting on it before. Like, there's a bunch of different models to evaluate a company, and one of them is just cash flow. Like, what if I just took the money and I bought typically a treasury bill? What would I get paid? Get paid like maybe a percentage point or even less now. So, one way to attract investment is just to say, like, if you're going to be a profitable company that doesn't, like a utility that doesn't expect massive growth because they are what they are, right? The way you attract investors is say, hey, buy my stock and I'll pay you a dividend, like just like a bond would over some period of time, and you get the appreciation of the stock as well as some cash flow from operations, right? And that's a really attractive way for low growth companies but really stable things. So usually associated with utilities or mature
Right.
companies.
They're like high profit, low growth. Or
Yeah,
let me rephrase that. They're profit, low growth. It could
right.
be high
And
profit, doesn't matter.
obviously Apple and other, several like large tech companies, that give out dividends. And then again, like, but you're always seeing this kind of this thing in the stock market. What do you want? Do you want growth? You want a dividend? You want both? And I think this is to your point about everyone's just very schizophrenic when it comes to investing. Like, it's always, it is confusing. And this, you kind of joked about it, but like, personally, like, yeah, it is just the index fund approach is what I take. Just throw it all in there, and hopefully in 20 years there'll be some money left to pay some retirement bills. But I do, the thing I like, and I think people listening to this, like, you like good products, you want to see people try new things, you want to see new products come into the market, but at some point there's got to be this reconciliation with investors, right? And I see a lot of weird behavior based on investment pressure that isn't necessarily driving good product decisions. And maybe that's always how it's going to be, but it could be a lot better.
Mm. All right. Well, now I understand it all. So that's fantastic. Well, speaking of that, like, I didn't even notice this till you pointed out, Matt Ray, but there was a Austin startup report. That was pretty exciting. There's like a nice infographic and everything in there, and what struck me is there was some exits in there. All of them,
45.
yeah, like all of them basically undisclosed, except 3 point whatever billion for Hobaway, right? Like, it was it Expedia that bought them, but it is yeah. And then also that kind of ranks the types of startups, and it looks like we kind of dominate in the e-commerce and retail area, or what was the one below it? But basically consumer facing stuff, which it's always my theory of the Austin tech scene, that I always tell people is like, we've got all these like consumer facing people downtown, and they don't really want to drive 20 minutes to meet all the enterprise people up in the northwest part of town. They never really talk with each other ever.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's fine. But the startup stuff is it's pretty heavy on the consumer facing thing, like marketing and CRM things.
Well, yeah, there's definitely a lot of like analytics of marketing.
Yes.
I mean, like spread fast and just a lot of like analytics of well, looking at the list, continuum analytics and spread fast and a bunch of stuff I don't even know what it is. But it just whenever I talk to people, their startup is like, oh, we're gonna follow your brand awareness on Twitter and South America. Like, who cares, right? And their whole like business models built on whole startups that are built on just like analyzing one little marketing metric thing. And it seems like Austin's just got a fever for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, having used like Salesforce over the last two companies I've been at, there's a lot of room for boutique or niche vendors, that is startups, to come in and like make that stuff better.
Yeah, well, but that's the thing.
And also the whole platform around it. And like, I think it's like, there's a lot of good options if you want to get better analytics about how your sales and marketing efforts are going. That's almost an infinite well to go to do things.
Well, there's definitely feels like an infinite well. But if you're investing in that, you can't look at like a little boutique startup and say, oh, these guys are the next Salesforce. Or there's this unlimited growth potential. It's got to be like, well, they're going to be acquired, and I'm casting my bet on a bunch of acquisitions because none of the. I mean, maybe I'm just uninformed, but it just doesn't seem like the sort of thing that tying yourself to Twitter analytics long term, maybe not your best long term business model.
Yeah.
But in the short term.
I didn't realize this, but this survey was paid for by a real estate firm. That's smart. They're like, hey, there's something in the water. You should rent some square footage from us.
It is always interesting when you read these things, because I mean, I know enough people at some of these companies are just like, I don't know, man. It feels like the truth about a lot of these is out there if you just go ask some people. And a lot of these companies, questionable long-term product strategies in this list, I would say. So
yeah, I mean, this
torn by the hype versus the like, hey, why don't you just go interview a few people?
But I don't think that's endemic to Austin. I think that's endemic to startups. There's so much noise. People are trying lots of different things, and 1 in 10 are going to be successful, and and the definition of successful, even that varies wildly. So some of these companies are hey, they had an exit. Well, we've talked about some of these, and some of them were like they exited for below their VC investment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it doesn't sound too glorious, but like I think Austin has a good chance to be sort of like kind of like the back office place for a lot of outfits, right? Like, I mean, we're always big and like, if you want an enterprise product manager, you can like, if people say throw a dead cat anymore, you can like throw an empty coffee cup and like hit one anywhere in Austin, because they go downtown sometimes, go over in the 2nd Street district there, hang out with the adults and like maybe South Congress. But like, we're really good at like enterprise product management and stuff like that. And then there's also like a big Home Depot and GM data center here, which means they have a big footprint here. And it seems like there's another path that isn't consumery, where it's like we've got a lot of enterprise folks here, which is completely self-serving for me to have that opinion. But it's I think like by sheer revenue that comes into our town, I think that probably drives a lot of money.
Probably.
That's well, speaking of driving revenue, I'm here, like I said, at the annual kickoff, and since we talked about this last time, I'm 2 days into it. I've got some on the ground tips. I think to throw out there. One of them is like, it's nice. Like everything, there's good food. Like, it's good to get all the employees all jazzed up, and there's good inspirational talks and everything. Like,
where are you guys?
We're in the Marriott Marquis in San Francisco. I'm overlooking Market Street here. I can see the Marshalls, Wells Fargo. I forget what that is. I don't know my San Francisco geography that well. But yeah, it's like it's a good chance to like rile everyone up, which the type of people that we are in companies we worked at. Companies are not always good at riling people up, getting them excited. So it's nice for that. And also I came a day earlier, so I hung out with kind of like the sales and the field engineering thing, salespeople. And I saw a guy drink a Corona out of a boot because he lost a bet about a sale that wasn't going to happen, which, you don't really see developers doing those antics very much. So that was some good frat level and sorority level. Like I assume sororities do this kind of thing, but like
they drink out of boots.
Yeah, like, and it was great. Of course, it was very well orchestrated, right? He was like, yeah, sure, I took a bet to drink out of a boot, and then he ended up closing this deal, so now I'm going to drink the Corona out of the boot. And then, of course, they picked like the tallest person, and they got one of his boots, so that it was a giant boot. And but that guy, he I wouldn't say he slammed it, but he just in one quaff drank the whole boot full of Corona, and he didn't even put salt and lime on it.
Well, you got to think the inside of the boot's a little salty.
And the whole time I'm thinking like, well, what's that dude who's only got one dry boot gonna do now? Why'd he get hold of this?
Oh, poor boot wearer. That probably ruined his boot too.
You would assume so.
But no, Cote, was there like a tip in here? So is the tip just not to drink?
Yeah, I kind of oversold this segment. I just wanted to tell the story about the
All right, so
But
let's learn. Don't bet about on
I think
sales.
I think here's the tip, and we talked about this a lot last time, right? Like the value is like meeting with people. So it's probably a good idea not to schedule a lot of stuff while you're in town. And then on the other hand, it's also good to find out like precisely when you need to be there, right? Because these kickoff things are going to be like a week long, right? And everyone's going to be like, I don't know, come the whole time. But like for example, like I said, it was like the sales and marketing people on the first day and the whole company the second day. Paying close attention if you didn't care about sales and marketing, which I mean, obviously you should and all that kind of nonsense, whatever. But like, you might have come for the first day and been like, oh, why was I here? So like, it's good to investigate what's going to be going on the whole conference and make sure that like, you only show up for what you need, because a week is a long time.
A week is a long time.
Well, this applies to really conferences and kickoffs. It's just always leave a day early. Just always have something you have to get back for, and just be like, I have to go. Because if someone really needs you, they'll get you before then. And then especially at a conference, the last day is just like nobody cares.
Yeah.
It's like everybody's zombied out. So just always leave a day early if you have any.
I'm not. I've applied that to the next conference I'm attending. I'm not going to name it, but I already like. Well, I'll be. It ends on Thursday, but I have to get back to town Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I believe that's why the conferences that end on Thursday, they're just doing that so people stay through Wednesday. That's it. Thursday is and if God forbid someone has one that goes 5 days to Friday, no one is there on Friday. It's just a complete.
So we could call this the Brandon's N-1 scheduling.
Oh, absolutely. Of all times, N-1. Yes.
N-1.
Yeah, and definitely don't do a +1 in. Like, don't come a day early. That's no good.
No.
Well, unless you actually have something like unwork related.
Yeah. Sure.
Throwing in some like touristy stuff if you're going somewhere exciting, that's nice.
And I'll throw in a tip, just since I did some false advertising from one of my old. He used to be at IBM and then Dell, and now he's retired. This guy Mark Cathcart, and his tip was, if you're working for a company and you go to a company conference, you should always sit in the first row.
Yeah.
If only for, he never would use this word, but if only for optics, right? So that you're visible. And I found myself inadvertently doing this because my coworker Bridget was in the front row, so I went and sat with her, and I was like, "Holy crap, I'm following Cathcart's rule." And like, sure, yeah. Like usually I sit in the back.
Well,
whatever. But
it's the same thing as back when I was in college. Like, when you were in high school, they're like, oh, when you get to college, you don't have to go to class, blah, blah, blah. And, you get there and you're like, if I sit in the back, I don't pay attention. So.
Go on.
Yeah. So
sounds wonderful so far.
No. So, I mean, when I go to conferences or, when I go to keynotes, you can probably tell if I want to pay attention or not.
Yeah, and I had a bit of a problem, like in my front row joeing, as it were, and like the schedule was for it all in at 12:30 Pacific time, and then we were recording at 1, so like everything's fine, and it's about like 12:40. I'm like, oh, what if they go over? Like, I'm in the front row. Like, what do? I leave?
You stand up and walk out. This is software-defined talk.
Yeah. I guess you got to boss it, but whatever. Like that. Yeah. I mean, there's risk, but I think it's overall. If you're one of these people who's like, looking to like hack your work and your life and all that stuff, there's a good work hack for you. Just sit in the front row.
You're gonna have to be there anyway, and you might as well pay attention. That's a pro tip. You might as well pay attention.
So, are you going to have any events coming up that where you can apply this rule?
Actually, I'm applying it twice in the month of February. Well, kind of. I'm going to Australia in 2 weeks for some work stuff, and I was going to apply. I was going to stay extra long to do some tourist stuff, but then I realized Valentine's Day, and and then I was like, oh, I'll just leave early so I can spend more time there. And then I was like, I don't want to.
Why are we cursed with having to show our appreciation to our loved ones? Why can't they just like know that it's there, and we can be all stoic? I don't understand.
Well, I actually figured like after being there a week, I'm going to be burned out and I'm going to be ready to go home anyway. So what's the value of staying in +1? I might as well stay in days.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and then I'm going to a conference in Vegas in February, and man, Vegas, I hate Vegas.
Which one is that? What are you going to?
I'm going to an IBM conference, and
Yeah.
but I had to fly Frontier. Oh man,
Whoa.
yeah.
Matt
I
Ray,
didn't
Matt Ray. Look. Now I know Brandon will back me up here. You should only fly on one airline. You got to make. Why are you flying on Frontier?
because they have the direct.
Matt Ray, is that your airline? Is that your
No,
airline?
hell no. That's the
Okay,
worst.
then don't fly in it. I realize you can't go unbook this, but I'm telling you, you've got to pick your airline and you're monogamous.
No, you can't. We live in Austin. You cannot be monogamous in Austin.
Matt Ray.
What are you going to have me fly to Houston to get to Vegas?
This is okay. I'm
Fly
gonna
to
go.
Dallas?
Clearly, like an intervention. All right. Well, listen.
I'm gonna go rent a van. I'm gonna rent a van, and we're gonna have an intervention. We're gonna fix this problem.
Well, Matt Ray and I will both be at IBM Interconnect. I will not be taking Frontier. I don't know what airline I have. Well, I said I will be taking my preferred airline there. I'm sure.
You'll be taking the direct on Southwest or the
Almost
direct on
definitely.
Frontier?
Yeah, almost.
And the
definitely.
Southwest leaves at
Again,
7 a.m.
No, the rules are very well established. First, you go to your preferred airline around the world. Okay, that's going to be if you live here.
I'm flying American to
it's going to
Australia.
be American, right? That's going to be American. Then your secondary domestic direct flight airline is Southwest in Austin. These are laws that cannot be changed. This is a law of physics, right? And then, depending on where you are in pursuit of your preferred status level in American, you then rotate between. You're like, okay, I'm gonna do the indirect route because I'm real close to platinum or gold or executive.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
I actually that did influence my decision for Australia because I was like,
under no circumstances do you just opt out and go, I'm going Frontier. That's never.
No.
There is no option for that.
There is though.
No, there is no option.
Well,
7 a.m. flight. Who wants a 7 a.m. flight?
Before we go into recommendations, I'm gonna do a little he who cast the first stoning here. Like now with airlines, I am pretty stone tablety to stay in the biblical metaphors. But this week, like I'm a Starwood person, right? I got platinum on Starwood through my dedication and everything, but I am staying in a Marriott for like 5 nights, and it's killing me, right? Right? That is one stay, 5 nights. 5 nights that could have gone towards my lifetime status with Starwood,
Aren't they matching?
Well, now hold on. That's how I save this story. But like I don't get access to the lounge. Like it's a very lovely room, but I feel very, very bad about the situation. Now, of course, what happens, and this is where like you just have to be dastardly, is like because it's a big company event, they book the hotel for you, and like you don't have the flexibility, blah blah blah. So I'm trying to be a team player, right, and go with the block booking. But man, it doesn't. I feel like I'm failing here. But yes, the way I console myself is, Marriott is buying Starwood, so I am hoping that those 5 nights are they're like all my Starwood nights, and that is going to converge together as if I was on U.S. Airways and American.
Exactly, it all works out. Eventually, there'll only be one airline. There'll only be one hotel chain.
That's right.
And we'll all be flying it all the time.
We'll all be part of Wayland Industries. I watched that Prometheus movie on the way here. That's not my recommend. That's a good movie.
I don't know about that.
Hey, I mean, yeah, whatever.
I liked it. I was in on it.
It was fine. So I said we're going to go to recommendations. I just one little update on the Apple Watch. So I did have it during traveling, and the Apple Watch is very nice on traveling on American Airlines. The what do they call it? The complication they have. You just glance at it, not to be confused with glances. You look at it, and it figures out when it should tell you how long your flight is. Like there's 22 minutes left before you land, and then it figures out when you're going to your next flight, and it tells you where the gate is and what seat you're on. And so that's awesome, right? Like you can just look at it to know the seat you're at. So traveling with the watch is fantastic. And I think it just it highlights the other theory I had, is that like the problem is like all those app developers out there, they need to get on it and like write more stuff. Cause I think there's all sorts of scenarios as evidenced by that, where like having this like little dashboard on your wrist, like is really handy and is nice. And I don't even know what they are, but it's good stuff. So, sure. It's still technically probably a total waste of money. But if you have money to waste, I think it's a good use of your money. So with that, how about you go first with recommendations this week, Brandon?
Okay, I'll just give you two quick ones. One, I want everyone to take my survey, so it'll be in the show notes. It's self-explanatory, so go out there, take the Twitter poll, and then leave some snarky comment, and you'll be like everybody else. That'd be great. And then the other thing, this is just a link to an article on machine learning. It's not super technical. It's more like it's kind of like the next layer down of like when people say machine learning, this is what they mean. It's got a lot of visual diagrams. It shows kind of like how an algorithm learns over time, which I thought was really interesting. I mean, I hear that a lot, and I sort of know about it, but this sort of brought it home, and it's a good, I think, a good intro in machine learning if you are so interested in that subject. So check it out. And then Matt Ray and I will both be at Interconnect in a couple of weeks, so you can come by the IBM security booth or the chef booth. And Matt Ray, maybe you and I will grab a microphone. We'll do some man on the scene at Interconnect in a couple.
Exciting.
Now is Interconnect the Rational and Tivoli combo? What is Interconnect? No.
Oof, I don't know. That's kind of a hard lineage question. I'll just say it's for mobile cloud security. If you're ever interested in any of that stuff, come by, and there'll be lots of people.
So that's Robert LeBlanc, right? He runs all that.
He runs all of cloud. And he
okay. Because Roden does data and LeBlanc does everything else.
Man, we're getting into some inside IBM. I have to get the org chart out here in a second.
all right.
List it. Can I just go with my first answer? LeBlanc.
Yeah. Let me get back to you on that.
LeBlanc does all of cloud. Mark Van Zadeloff does all of security. Mobile's like in a lot of places. Like mobile's part of everything.
I see.
And of course, Matt Ray's going to be there talking about chef recipes for God knows what IBM. It'll be great.
Power.
Oh, Matt Ray's going old school. I like it. Go over to the old school area and talk about
We're going to get you an interview at the IT Jungle, my favorite system.
I'm going to have to go find the power side now.
Yep. I think that's
how about yourself, Matt Ray? What do you got for us this week?
My picks, they're fairly practical.
I know. I was looking at this and I was like, what the fuck?
So I've got a MacBook Pro, and it's got a little SD slot, and I never carry SD cards, full stop. So you've got this like empty gap, and they actually sell micro SD drives that you can plug in there. It's like a little holder that goes flush with the case, and you can put in like the little micro SD chips in there. So it's like getting an extra internal hard drive in your and it doesn't stick out. It doesn't, it's flush with the system. And so now I have a brand new, I have an extra 4 gigs of storage on my laptop.
That totally redeems this recommendation, Matt. Right?
I told you, it's good. It's good stuff.
Listen, and I am going to cancel our plans for an intervention too, because I am intrigued. I'm intrigued because we have the like we have those cheap $35 Fire tablets, and they have like a micro SD slot on them, which is wonderful. But I don't know why that's related other than physically, but that's cool. Just
adding storage to they made the MacBooks unupgradable, and so this is the only thing you can plug in.
I'm totally gonna go check that out. That's
all right then.
It's a good hack. I like that.
It's good stuff. I use it for all my laptop movies. And then my other recommendation is programmingfonts.org. If there's one thing that nerds care about, it's fonts. And that they use for programming, color themes and fonts. And this
don't in typefaces, isn't that right?
Yeah, sure, whatever. so get in there. They actually have a live comparison tool, so you can type in the text that you want to see, and it's got highlighting already in there, and then you can change the font for Menlo to Inconsolata to whatever it is that you like. It's got about 30 of them. It's not comprehensive. So after I posted on Twitter, people were like, "Well, it doesn't have fill in the blank." I'm like, "Well, come on, people." But if you want to see the quick comparison of 0 to O and IL to 1 to whatever, it's handy.
Those are both solid recommendations. Every now and then when I want to remember what it's like to be a programmer, I go find some new fonts to put in Sublime or something, And then you know it's like I've relived the old days.
Good
It's like
times.
that's because that's as close as I'll ever get. Well, that's good. Well, my recommendation this week is both operational and product wise because no one has followed us up on a new business model. I don't have a Costco thing to review for you, but I got one of these for Christmas. This is the Shower Mate Bluetooth shower. I'm showing it for people who are watching the video. Now, what it is it's somehow water resistant, and it's got this huge suction cup, right? So it has Bluetooth. So you could stick this in your shower and listen to your podcasts or your music. The last 2 mornings I've listened to music because I've woken up really early and my mind shifted to wanting music. But now you're not wasting time in the shower, because you can listen to podcasts. I also have one of those Aqua Notes things, which is fun in there. But here's and it's only like $15 or something. I got one of these in my stock now. Here's the tip: you might recognize I've got it with me. Buy yourself a second one if you travel a lot, and put it in your your DOP kit or your bathroom bag, right? Because you're never going to remember to unsuction the one from your kitchen, because I bathe in the kitchen, from your bathroom shower stall like every time. So that's my thing is just like in that movie Contact, right? Like, why pay for one when you can pay for two? And then you just throw it in your bag and you're good to go. But it's nice and it's cheap, and as far as I can tell, the audio quality is really good as well.
Compared to the shower.
Yeah, compared to the shower. Yes. or like here's a little tip. I got in early and I shaved 30 minutes off I could wake up at 4:30 a.m. into 4 a.m. on Sunday morning to fly out here. But I did that by not taking a shower, right? So when I got here, I wanted to bathe. So, as is convenient to do, I actually took a bath instead of a shower, and I set up the little speaker over here, and I watched an episode of The X-Files, right? On the iPad. Normally the volume would not be good enough, but you got the speaker, and then it's you can hear it. So there's all sorts of things you can do here.
Just don't electrocute yourself.
Yeah. You're basically, what's the fancy word when you pull apart literature into its parts? It's not disassociate. It's disaggregate, whatever that is.
Deconstruct.
Yeah, you can deconstruct your AV situation by having the speaker here and just get more flexibility. So anyways, that's my recommendation.
All right.
Well, as always, this has been Software Defined Talk. It's always a pleasure talking with people. Like I said, I've been at this conference, and it's nice when people come up and say they listen to us. That's always refreshing. So I appreciate that. I have two things as sort of ads to put here on the end. As always, if you want to find out what we do at Pivotal and you get 2 free months using our public cloud, you can go to cote.io/pivotal. But we just published a new book with O'Reilly, technically an O'Reilly report. I think it's about 30, 40 pages, and it goes over how to get Cloud Foundry, the open source version, up and running it and how to use it. And there's a link off of cote.io/pivotal where you can go get a free version of that, a PDF or a Mobi or a Kindle or whatever, all these formats. So go check that out. Tell me what you think of it. And also, I just started a new column at the Register that's going to be monthly, running through May at least. Maybe if they like it, they'll have me do more. But writing about DevOps, and I published one at the beginning of this month, and it generated 36 comments. Most of them falling under the category of we've long known how fucking helpful the internet is. But I think it's my usual shtick in about 800 words of why you should care about DevOps, but with updated data. And I'll be publishing one. I have to send it the first Monday of every month, but I'll put a link to it. And if you have ideas of things you want to see me write about, send that along. And otherwise, just check it out. So yeah, you can find the show notes for this episode. What is this, 53? If you go to cote.io/SDT53, you can find links to all the wonderful products, Matt Ray's font comparison tool, how to expand the storage that you have, and whatever it is, the survey and some machine learning. And you can also go to softwaredefinedtalk.com to subscribe to the podcast, or it's in iTunes and all that stuff. And, tell your friends to listen. And we won't assign them the homework of asking them what they want to hear. Bye-bye.
Bye.